Good morning. Welcome to Art Talk. This is our scheduled time, 10 a.m. Friday mornings live, Eastern Standard Time, and I'm Elaine. So today's topic is values and how I work with certain tools to determine the values and grayscale that I'm using in a drawing or painting. So when I begin, I generally ask students to have a copy of a black and white photo with a color photo. And you can see I have an image of a tiger. And if you're doing plein air or you're doing a still life, I'd suggest taking a photograph before you begin. If you can, print out the photographs. Obviously, if you're outside, you'll need to rely on an iPad or an iPhone. I imagine, if you have an internet connection, you can take your computer with. First I ask you to identify the darks and lights. So even if I was looking at this colorful painting, I would say, let's begin, especially in watercolors, because we start from light to dark. I'd identify the whites and probably some of the light or medium tones, and then where's my darkest dark? So white against black first, and we call that no tan. And then I start isolating maybe some light grays and some medium grays as well. So that's hard to identify in the color image, but I can then look at my black and white image and I can definitely see more contrast in the image. So when you're out doing plein air or even a still life, I always say squint a little bit. Sometimes you have to squint a couple of times. It takes your eyes a few minutes to adjust. So, just look out your window or across the room right now, or even at the screen, and squint out the colors on the color tiger and see if it kind of goes gray. So sometimes I have to open and close 2-3 times to get it. So that really is helpful when I'm first trying to establish my values. When it blends, then I can kind of guess if it's very dark, medium, light gray, or white. White and black are always the obvious. So one of the tools that I like to use are these little grayscale finders. I'm going to put them on the screen. And this one I've punched holes into it so you can see it. This one already has the message on there. So you can see it goes from white to black on there, and there's these little openings. I actually like this one the best. And so this one counts from 10 to 1. I always consider my 1 white and then my 10 the black, just because it's the darkest. So however you want to do it is fine. And I'm just looking at kind of a dark area over here. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. And it's not black, straight black, like maybe this area is a little bit closer to black around the nose. So
Just a sec. I don't see a search line in your contacts.
sorry about that. My phone just went on. So when I move this across the scale, and even if it's a colored photograph, um, I move this area over to the area I'm trying to match to discover how dark it is. Now, the black and white copy obviously tells me that, but if I didn't have that, I would squint and see where it blends in perfectly. So right in this area, it's really pretty dark. If I move it somewhere else, if it just kind of fades in together, and it just looks like the gray scale, then I know I've hit the value correctly. And a gray scale goes from white, light gray, medium gray to dark gray to black. And that's what we call a value scale. So, do I always have to use the whole scale when I'm painting? And that's a no. So when I begin a painting, I identify at least 3 values to begin. So my white is white, which is the white of the paper, or what we would call the highlight of the area. And then a medium tone, maybe somewhere in here. And then my darkest darks. And as I get better with understanding value and color change, then I would always suggest that you add a light gray and a medium dark gray. So then it gives you 5 values. So white, black, some light grays, some medium grays, and some dark grays. And your eye will begin to take notice of that. So going back to, so sometimes you might say I'm really light-handed and, just don't really contrast my paintings with really deep, dark blacks or dark gray values. That's okay. And sometimes you may find that you like to play richer and deeper tone values. That's also fine. So we call that high key value and low key value. So high key value is really, if you think of a pastel painting, so everything is very muted. So your darkest dark would be maybe a white to a medium gray, but you can see on this side of the scale, they're all pretty light. But my deepest color then would be this 5 or 6. That would represent my black. And then all the other colors would be lightened according to scale. Now I can also go where I want to keep my values in the darkest shades. And so I would create the blacks and dark grays and medium grays, but then my lightest value, which would represent my highlight or the white of the paper, might be a value 6. You could go lighter. So it's up to you where you design your painting to go. So now I want to share with you about how I translate this to a painting. So obviously we talked about, it depends where I'm at. If I'm taking an image from a photograph that I took, then it's very easy to print a black and white and color image for me. And what I start doing is I start to paint the image. So here's a picture of the tiger that I started painting. I'm just gonna move this here and see if we can get both images on there. Okay, so it seems like my screen's just a little bit backwards. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. And it's not a completed painting. So obviously I can reference my photograph and go, oh, like this has got to get much deeper and darker. Um, I started putting in some darker tones in here. Guess that's off screen. Let me just flip it and see if this works better. We're on a little bit of a delay. There we go. Okay, so I think that way you can see this a little bit better. So what I was pointing out is if I squint my eyes, I know that in this area of the tiger's face, it becomes darker. And, I have to decide how dark I want it. And, I do like some of the fading in there, but that's besides the point. So one of the tools that I highly recommend is these red and green screens. And what they do is, you can see on the color image, it pulls out the color and it actually makes it a black and white image. So I don't always have to keep reprinting and copying my work on the Xerox machine. I can just use these quick little tools and it pulls out the color. Now, sometimes the green works better. You can see that if there's a lot of red in the image, the green is going to work better. Right now, the red is working great, and I recommend that you go to your local art store or order some of these kind of mylar screens, and I have two of them. And one is red, and they come in full-size sheets, so you need to cut them down to a piece at least 8 by 10, and then I get an inexpensive pre-cut mat and tape it down with artist tape, and then I'm able to use it. The same with the green. So you can see these are just bigger sheets. This is a nice little portable one, but it pulls out the color, not so much on the green. But when I use the red today, it actually pulls that out, and you can see on the green versus that. So you have to decide based on the colors of the image what's working for you. So I'm going to just show you one other comparison. And I have a photograph of a landscape. And it's in color. And then I do have my black and white image alongside it. And it just gives me a whole lot of information. So when I first look at the black and white image, I'm just going to put it on top. Again, I identify my light, mediums, and dark, then add some more values, and know that when I first start, right, it's important to save those light areas. And of course, we have different techniques for saving the lights. If the area is really dark, I would not start with painting it that dark. And I explain more of that in depth in classes. So again, since there's a lot of green in this picture, I want you to see the difference of, when I put the green screen on, it makes everything green, but it also shows some nice contrast. Now, if I pull it away and put my red screen on, it will become a little bit different in contrast. I think it's a little bit truer to the image. There you go. So you have to decide which one you use, or you can reference your black and white image, and then begin to look at it as you continue to paint it. It's important to check your values and to then correlate your colors to match your values. And I always say in class, you can paint a lemon purple if your value scale is correct. So, I hope this helps you in understanding how to use a value scale, how to use a red and green screen to help you um, plan your paintings or even your drawings so that they're the right value. I'm elainembergstrom, and if you found this helpful, please share it and like it. If you know of somebody who's not on Facebook but would appreciate learning about art and different techniques, please tell them that they can find me on YouTube and they can watch it as well. So until next week on live Facebook, I hope you have a great week. Thank you. Hi, Susie. Thanks for joining.